The 11th day of Vlogmas, my art content will be a holiday remix player character.
What's their race? A human. What's their class? A ranger or a blood hunter? What's their background? A noble. What is their alignment? Lawful, neutral. What is their personality type? They're apathetic. How old are they? Old age. And what is their holiday remix gonna be? Hot cocoa. They probably deserve it.
I decided to go with more of the ranger vibes on this one because I'm familiar with them a little bit more than I am the blood hunters. Though I'm still pretty new with the characters' design in general, both in the sense of anatomy and silhouette and all that, but also storytelling in elements like costuming, props, hair and physical traits, and all that other fun stuff. Which I tried to help myself by including the background prompts in the list that I rolled the dice from, and I even wrote down noble in several places while doing this. But then when I got to the sketching, I completely forgot about the noble background for this character and went with super generic things instead. And I could have easily alluded to that with, say, a fancy cup, or a brocade vest or something, but no, I am genuinely dumb like that. C'est la vie. I do enjoy learning about it in other media, such as all the thought that went behind classic like Lord of the Rings. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, completely tangentially here, I still do double takes and get surprised when the score starts off with the old church hymn, "This is my Father's world," and then quickly becomes not that song. Maybe it's just a really niche thing for a certain subset of people who grew up attending a certain kind of church, because I don't think I've ever seen people outside of church talk about that. I'm sure it was purposeful, because the composer is an extremely well-versed man who understands music theory at an incredible level, and very probably music history as well, since history and theory just kind of go together. And I'd be very surprised if he didn't study Tolkien's primary notes on music and poetry, then cross-examine that with his theological approach to Middle-earth, and then get into what was his church like during his lifetime, and what was their approach to music in the church. And almost certainly, "This is my Father's world" would have been known at that time and place. Which, of course, you could only know that by knowing hymns have histories, and a very well-versed composer would most likely read a few books on hymn histories during this course of study. And of course, figuring out, hey, this congregational hymn is basically the perfect Hobbit song. Tolkien maybe even had inspiration from it. Let's remix this into the greatest film adaptation of all time. Anyway, I'm not saying that's what happened, but it always catches me off guard, even after all these years. Back to the art. I decided to try out a much more stylized line art style the second time around on character art, and really pump up the blacks. Well, it doesn't seem that dramatic now, but at the time, this was a step away from my comfortable space. Going for that cartoon tenebrism a little bit here. I was thinking about adding some hatching, but then I kind of ran out of time to do it the old-fashioned way, you know, one hatch mark at a time by hand. And the hatching brushes I have right now are really more pattern brushes. And by that I mean a brush that lays down one continuous texture. It can't build upon itself in any meaningful way. I much prefer brushes that are more interactive, I guess you could say, such as having a certain amount of scattering and rotation and whatever when you're laying it down so that it does build up tone and texture upon itself. I did make one hatching brush a while back like that before, but I haven't bothered to save it on the mobile art studio yet. And also Photoshop on the iPad has really limited brush controls. A bit frustrating, but not quite as bad as some of its other limitations at the moment. Also a little differently, redirecting the topic again, I made the background a pretty light gray instead of a stark white. I think it adds to that passive apathy thing I want going on, and gives the opportunity to pop some white in there for that extra something. Not all the highlights, just a couple on his person, more on his eyes, face, and beard, and then of course the marshmallows and steam. I suppose I could have put a little candy cane in the cup to help drive the Christmassy cocoa feeling, but again, c'est la vie. And here is the final drawing of the old apathetic human ranger with their cup of cocoa. I think he came out pretty apathetic. We are very close to the end of the Vlogmas, Fidmas, Flonica series. Only 2 videos are left. Please snap the like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss out on the next one, a very appropriate New Year's gold dragon. And have a super duper Christmas.
Okay.